Hi, how are you doing? This is your friendly neighborhood random guy. If you found whatever you were looking for, please like and subscribe. Before the year 2022, world only knew one type of war, which was war on crime and terrorism. People were busy in thinking about how the future generations are going to be settled on Mars or so much advanced to reverse aging. Any sort of technological advancement was in foresight until dark clouds gathered on the horizon. Then came the date of 22 February 2022.
К России с просьбой о помощи. Мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции. Ее цель – защита людей, которые на протяжении 8 лет подвергаются издевательствам, геноциду со стороны киевского режима. И для этого мы будем стремиться к демилитаризации и денацификации Украины, а также преданию суду тех, кто совершил многочисленные кровавые преступления против мирных жителей, в том числе и граждан Российской Федерации.
The escalation of Russo-Ukrainian War, which was the second largest war in Europe since World War II. It is estimated to have caused tens of thousands of Ukrainian civilian casualties and hundreds of thousands of military casualties. But the question remains, how many soldiers have died since conflict? It is clear by now that due to fog of war, the count of killed in action is nearly impossible. And both sides are engaged in a misinformation campaign to boost morale, at the same time downplaying their own losses while exaggerating their rivals' losses. A simple search on the internet shows. Yes, nearly 90% of the search results show 100,000 to anywhere somewhere in between 100,000 to 300,000 dead Russians. While not a single report of Ukrainian casualties. Raising suspicion already. Yes, there have been claims of US estimate of Ukraine Kia or Wagner bosses' estimate of Russian Kia, but all of them seem politically motivated, just like both the governments of military conflicted countries. But the thing which is barely talked about is Ukrainian casualties. When questioned, all experts simply put up Russian casualties and disappear.
300,000 casualties, they lost thousands of armored vehicles and hundreds of aircraft. So,
even though Russia has drone advantage, artillery advantage, electronic warfare advantage, a partial air superiority, although partial but it's still an advantage. Then also tank and missile superiority. Well, interestingly enough, these all give a different picture if you throw away all the mainstream media reports and war videos. The thing in which Ukraine has superiority is numbers game. Ukraine has somewhere around 800,000 soldiers, while Russian forces are barely some 300,000 to 400,000, and yet the Ukrainians are on the back foot, quickly losing the momentum of their counter-offensive, even they had gathered a huge force of so many soldiers. Battle of Bakhmut was the most eye-opening battle in which Wagner forces, which were full of convicts, managed to push back well-trained professional troops of Ukraine. Then we see Chechens and other war-hungry soldiers. Hell, even if we combine Kadyrov forces and Wagner forces along with another private troops fighting for Russia like DPR and LPR forces and some more, they would be some 100,000 troops. So going by an estimate, if Russia has lost 100,000 troops, majority of them can be a combination of convicts and private army militia groups, which doesn't sound like a bad loss in comparison to the loss of professionally trained soldiers of Ukraine, which I doubt can be a more than 200,000. Given the circumstances of the war, there was a promise of 100% air protection from Patriot system, and yet we keep seeing missile strikes in Kyiv. And now there's talks of new Ukrainian mobilization bill, which is about adding another 500,000 of soldiers. All connecting the dots and giving Ukrainian casualties. Frontline units in several vulnerable areas said in recent weeks that they were often chronically short of ammunition and manpower. At one gun position, troops were resupplied with smoke shells after exhausting their high explosive ammunition, they said. Russia's pool of manpower is at least 3 times greater than that of Ukraine. Zelensky has persistently argued that given Russia's higher pool of manpower and armor, Ukraine needs a step change in its battlefield technology. More sophisticated drones and other unmanned systems would provide real-time intelligence and accurate targeting information. Well, until he got replaced. Time is of the essence. The Russian military continues to make mistakes, but it is learning and adapting, especially in the exploitation of attack and reconnaissance drones and electronic warfare. With that being said, I think Russian casualties might be around 200,000 to 300,000, given the force they first sent was roughly 200,000, and then the partially mobilized soldiers, which were around 300,000 to 400,000. And in this war 200 to 500 soldiers are getting lost every day by both sides. If we calculate about 200 soldiers lost every day, we would get 72,000 soldiers lost in a year, and also if we consider 300 per day like in the Battle of Bakhmut and other high-intensity areas, we would get 54,000 killed in 6 months. So a combined number would get us 90,000 killed in action in 1 year for both sides. If proceed furthermore, the number would make up to roughly 200,000 killed for both sides, given that it's about to be 2 years for this war. So Russian casualties can be roughly up to 200,000, with 100,000 being convicts and private militias keeping in mind. Now as for Ukrainian casualties. Also keeping in mind that the new mobilization bill can be a counter-offensive measure and has nothing to do with shortage of manpower. It would easily fall around 200,000 too. If we add Russian advantage, it would be 200,000 to 250,000 or 300,000, and if considering the worst-case scenario which is shortage of manpower, then it might be up to 350,000 or more. Who knows, Ukrainian casualties might be over 500,000 if we take that worst-case scenario. That was a rough calculation of casualties for both sides. The whole video is not intended to be politically motivated or claiming to be 100% bulletproof accurate, which is impossible due to fog of war. It's a rough calculation as the second phase of war continues. Hope both sides come to negotiation table and sort it out in near future. If you found whatever you were looking for, please like and subscribe. Until next time, your friendly neighborhood random guy.